Alright, today I'm going to talk about how folding the blanket can help your yoga practice. And this is a much shorter version of a talk about folding paper into origami shapes, because the blanket is very good at folding, right? As you can do any type of fold that you want from this blanket, but when you ask it to hold its shape, it really doesn't do that, right? Whereas paper and origami is you can fold it and you can make it hold its shape. A little bit easier, right? So when we fold a blanket, right, is there's certain steps that we need to take to ensure that we get a clean shape at the end. So if I were to take this blanket, unfold it, and then try to refold it without taking these steps, I'm gonna get something real close to the shape, but it's not gonna be tight, it's not gonna be clean. If I were to sit on meditate on this, I would feel something punching into me at 5 minutes and I'd get frustrated for the rest of my meditation. So when we fold a blanket, right, is we need to ensure a couple of things before we make each fold. And I'll do it from the first fold here, right? Come on out. See, that's one of the reasons why it's important to make sure that you do your folds right. Alright, so if we have the base condition here where it's completely unfolded, and for this particular case it's folded once, is we need to make sure everything's straight, flat, everything's in its place before we add the second fold. Right? And so we do that fold now. And then we make sure everything's straight, make sure everything's flat. And if we have a part that's not, is we need to straighten that out. Before we add the next fold. Right? And now we can add the next fold. And then one more time to finish it off. And now we have a nice shape. It's got a sharp edge. It's completely flat. Nothing's gonna poke into you when you're meditating on it. And it's functional, So this is how we fold our blankets, how we fold clothes, how we fold origami if we ever get to that point, right? But how does this help our yoga practice, right? So, if we treat our seated postures like a series of folds, and we treat Dandasana as the point where we're completely flat, where the blanket's completely flat and unfolded, then we can use the same steps to get into other positions, right? So the first fold that we usually need to master is the forward fold. So that's step one. And once we do that from our unfolded position to our folded position, once we get that down, is then we can add other folds, right? So if we want to do Janu Sirsasana, the next step is to add a fold here with our leg. And again, if we don't align ourselves properly here, is once we get down into the position, is we're going to feel something abnormal, or we're never going to get into the position that we really want, right? So you bring your leg back, you align it to, whatever your preference is, either 90 or 80. It's whatever you're trying to work on. And then once you get everything set, you get your sit bones aligned again, right? Because maybe bringing your leg back misaligned your sit bones, or your hips, or your spine, is then you straighten out again, right? You straighten all this stuff out again, just like we were straightening out the blanket again. And then from there you can fold, right? And then we can add another fold onto this, which is a twist, right? So you can twist, you can align here, get everything straight, and then from here is you can fold over that leg, right? So there's 3 folds there. And most positions do have 3 folds, right? But if we stop in between each one, get everything aligned before we move on to the next fold, then we have a much higher chance of obtaining, the shape that we want. So it's not just about stopping in between each one, it's also about maybe sequencing these. So when you sequence these and you do Dandasana first, right? There's a reason why Ashtanga Dandasana is before all the other seated postures, is because you have to master this position. If you can't, if you don't master this position, you're never going to get to Paschimottanasana, right? It's not going to happen. If you don't get to Paschimottanasana, you're never going to get to Jani Shirshasana, right? And if you're never going to get to Jani Shirshasana, you're never going to be able to bring your leg into lotus, right? And so that's kind of the way Ashtanga is set up, as being able to master each one of these folds before moving on to the next one. And it should really be the way that you set up your classes as well, where there's maybe a sequence of folds that you have to do before the next one, at least. Right? And then the standing posture is kind of the same way. You know, every standing posture is really just a series of folds. And I think that works very well. So that's kind of how, the gist of how, you know, folding a blanket and taking the same mentality that you use to fold a blanket can help you when you do your yoga postures. Right. So hope this helps. Hope maybe you know, it lightens you a little bit. And you know, before I practice every single time lately, is I either fold a blanket if I have a blanket, or if I have my shirt, is I'll take my shirt off and then I'll fold it. So that it gets me into that same mentality of relaxing, calming down, make sure that every fold is set up before I move on to the next fold. That way I can have success in my practice. Alright? So, hope you enjoy this video. Have a good day, and we'll see you later. Bye.